I spent 50 hours combing the living lands, and I've picked up some incredibly helpful tips along the way. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today I'm sharing everything I wish I knew sooner about Obsidian Entertainment's new RPG, Avowed. So yes, I was fortunate enough to play Avowed ahead of its February 18th release date, and I spent over 50 hours playing through the story, exploring side content, and just generally immersing myself in the game world. Avowed is a fascinating game, but not everything is spelled out in bright neon lights, which is why we always put together these Wish I Knew Sooner tips and tricks videos whenever it comes to a big game. As always, we'll start with some more obvious tips and end with what I think are some real game changers that I hope will make your experience in the Living Lands more enjoyable. Let's get into it. Avowed uses a radial menu to help you manage your active abilities as well as your companions. It's a bit clunky, and initially you might not know how to move abilities from the radial menu to your quick action bar. It's actually rather simple, but the game never tells you how to do it. Once in the radial menu, you'll want to hover over any active abilities you want to put on your quick bar. Then on PC, you'll press a corresponding number from 1 to 6 depending on where you want that button to land. That will move the action to your quick bar and will correspond with the key you've selected. I have to imagine the system is similar on console. Just look in the bottom right hand corner of the screen when you have your radial menu up for some guidance. Avowed manages to strike a nice balance when it comes to how many fast travel points are available for the player. There are enough that you don't feel like you have to run from one side of the world to another, but they're also not placed every 10 feet, cheapening the act of exploration. However, there are certain parts of the world that you can't fast travel from, and a quick way to know if you're in one of those areas is by looking in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. If you see a crossed-out purple icon, then you better start running because fast travel is not an option. This restriction is usually reserved for the more challenging areas of each zone, forcing you to fight or avoid enemies in order to survive. I should point out that most enemies have a very short leash and won't follow you for long before they reset. One thing you'll learn quickly is that you don't want to burn through your health and essence potions in Avowed. These should only be used during combat, as they can instantly replenish a portion of either resource. Outside of that, you're going to want to use food, and this might not be immediately apparent, but you should always reach for food first as it's more abundant and can accomplish the same goal, albeit slower. Food doesn't instantly regenerate your resource, it takes a bit longer, but you can also store a bit of any excess health or essence the food would restore and use that the next time either resource is depleted during combat. The best thing you can do is search for food items out in the world. Look high and low, and this next part is important, bring them back to camp and cook them at the fire. This is a straightforward process where you input raw ingredients and you get out a cooked item that is far superior. To be honest, it doesn't matter what food you make, and I didn't find the specifics to mean all that much, because in your radial menu you can go into this master food icon and then select either health items or essence items, consuming them to restore either resource. The game will automatically pick the best food item for the job, and this is how I restored either resource throughout most of the game, and I recommend you do as well because it'll save on your supply of vitally important potions. Food is such a powerful thing in Avowed, so much so that you'll want to use it for more than just restoring health and essence. As you're adventuring, you'll pick up a number of edible items that can give you temporary buffs, usually lasting in the ballpark of 300 seconds, which is not nothing. You shouldn't use these willy-nilly, but also don't be afraid to use them because, just like most RPGs, at some point you get over the hump of the power curve and you can sort of coast. That's dependent on difficulty, of course, but still holds mostly true. To access these buff-related food items, you'll want to go into your radial menu by pressing E and then navigate to the General Food tab. From here, you'll use the right arrow to tab through the various pages of food items that you have in your inventory. Some items will increase base attributes like might or perception, while others might give you pure damage boosts. There's a wide array to choose from, and obviously, you'll want to pick the food items that best align with your build. For example, if you're going for a magic build, you'll want to use something that boosts intelligence. On the flip side, if you're a melee warrior, you might want something with might. Whatever you choose, you're looking for the most potent effect that will help you get through whatever combat scenarios are blocking your path. One thing I didn't quite understand when I first started playing Avowed was how enemy difficulty worked. Each enemy is strategically placed in the game world and scaling doesn't exist. Given the open nature of the game, it's very possible and quite probable that you'll run into enemies that are way more powerful than you are. Enemies above your power level will also feature a skull. One skull means you can probably take them out. Two skull enemies are a bit trickier, but still doable unless you're up against a massive pack. However, three skull enemies should really be approached with caution, as their attacks will deal more damage and your weapons and armor will be less effective. It's possible to still kill these enemies, but you do have to ask yourself, at what cost? The last thing you want to do is waste a bunch of potions or buff items defeating some regular mobs, so just think that through before engaging. One thing I do like about Avowed, once you kill enemies, they won't respawn in the game world, so you really only have to kill these packs one time, and you want to do that with the least possible resistance. At the center of Avowed's progression system is the ability to upgrade your gear back at camp. Depending on how often you change out your weapons and armor will directly affect how many resources you'll need long term. There are 4 tiers of item quality: common, fine, exceptional, and superb. Within each of those tiers are 3 steps that incrementally make your items better, increasing its base stats. The resources required to upgrade each item are found in specific zones within the game, and things are linear, which is helpful. Common resources are found in Dawnshore, fine resources are found in Emerald Stair, exceptional resources are found in Shatterscarp, and superb resources are found in Gallowayne Tusks. Your goal should be to upgrade the items that you want to use to its fullest potential before moving into the next zone. Quite honestly, it's going to be hard to survive otherwise. The key to having enough resources is 2 things. First, you need to make sure you're looting everything you find, from enemy corpses and plants that you find while exploring. Second, and more importantly, you'll want to break down all of that extra gear you find. You will inevitably get duplicate sets of weapons and armor, and there is no reason to hold on to them. You can break down gear by holding R when using the workbench, reclaiming some resources that you can use to progress other items. Finally, and I think it's worth pointing out, you can also craft resources. This is a simple system that allows you to use lower tier resources to create higher tier ones. This is nice if you have extra resources hanging around when you move into a new zone, or you want to go back and upgrade some additional items that are lower tier, which requires you to work through all of the upgrade tiers once again. Early on in your adventure, you'll get your second companion, Marius, a powerful ranged ally that can root enemies in place, fire off lethal attacks, but I find that his most powerful ability actually has nothing to do with combat. Marius has another active ability called Hunter Sense, and this allows you to send out a pulse and scan the surrounding area for treasure. In a game that is filled with loot, this is huge, and something I relied on throughout the entirety of the game. In fact, when I didn't have Marius with me, I am positive I missed more than a fair share of hidden treasures, because Avowed does a masterful job hiding items behind secret doors and around tight corners you might otherwise miss. The challenge is you can only have 2 companions at once, and once you unlock Giada and Emerald Stair, you have to make a choice which 2 companions you take out into the world with you. If you're a ranged caster like I was throughout most of my playthrough, I couldn't really afford to part with Kai, who took away some of the aggro burden, but I also needed Giada for some of the core story quests in that second zone. That means Marius was stuck at camp, and I lost out on that powerful ability to find treasures easily. However, there is another little trick. If you're nearby something lootable like a chest or a bag, you will hear a shimmering sound effect. This is localized in the world and very clear if you're wearing headphones, so if you're forced to bench Marius, keep your ears open so you don't miss out on loot. When Marius is on your team, use Hunter Sense as often as you'd like, because you definitely don't want to miss out on any unique items. In some RPGs, vendors are merely a means to an end, an opportunity to sell your belongings and perhaps stock up on a resource or 2. In Avowed, vendors offer something very different: the chance to obtain powerful, unique items. You heard me right. In Avowed, you can buy some of the most powerful items in the game, if you have the coin. Throughout each zone, but mostly in the main cities, you'll find more than a few NPCs willing to sell you some goods. Each vendor usually has a specific area of expertise, and that's usually a good indicator for what type of unique gear they can sell. Not every vendor sells these items, which is why you should check in with each vendor in each area, because they're not all created equal. This is the easiest way to scoop up gear, and remember, unique weapons and chest armor can be upgraded and enchanted back at your camp. Finding the right piece with the right passive effect to match your desired playstyle is huge, especially during the early parts of progression. Just don't spend your coin on gear that doesn't align with your build. I should point out that vendors do also sell upgrade resources as well as lockpicks, so keep your eyes peeled for those because you can never have enough of either. Finally, as you're adventuring, you'll pick up gems. Their only purpose is to be sold, so don't hang on to them because they serve no other reason in the game aside for making you rich. I am a sucker for bounty hunter quests. Give me the chance to kill a named elite and reward me handsomely for doing so, and I'll take that quest 10 times out of 10. Luckily, Avowed features bounty boards in multiple cities with the chance to do just that. I highly recommend you pick up all of these bounty quests as soon as you arrive to any major city, and try and complete them as soon as your progression allows. Completing a bounty rewards you with XP and a healthy amount of sterlings, while completing the entire lineup of bounties rewards you with a unique item. Everything about these quests is a win, you just need to make sure you can handle the challenge. Before going to hunt down an elite, check the skull rating next to the quest in your journal. 1 or 2 skulls should be doable, but might require some food buffs. 3 skull quests you should probably forget about until you're slightly more powerful. Can you kill it? Most likely, but honestly the juice isn't worth the squeeze for the amount of effort it's going to require. Vendors in Avowed are good for more than just buying and selling resources. Sometimes they'll sell valuable treasure maps, and if you're looking for the true unguided RPG experience, then you'll want to make sure you pick these up whenever possible. When purchased, a screen will pop up revealing the location of a hidden treasure somewhere in that zone. However, don't expect any icons on your map or waypoints that guide you, because this treasure map challenges you to observe the world around you and locate the treasure based on the picture provided. I should note that some treasures can even elude Marius's hunter sensibility, so you'll actually have to track these down the hard way, but that's part of the fun. In a similar vein, each zone features hidden totems. Each totem has a base and then additional charms that you can add to that base, and you establish these in your camp. Here's the beauty of this. For each totem charm you add, you get a permanent buff that persists throughout the rest of the game. If you're playing on a harder difficulty, this is massive, and let me share why. Take the Wodaka totem from Dawnshore. Here are just some of the buffs you can get. Swift Order, which reduces companion cooldown abilities by 15%. The Queen's Burden, which increases intellect and resolve by 2. And Flames of Resurrection, which automatically cast a ring of fire whenever you activate Second Wind. Now that's just a sample, and remember, there are 4 totems in total, 1 for each zone. As you can see, I'm still missing the last totem in Dawnshore, but you can see the benefit. Better yet, there's always a vendor in each zone that sells a list of clues where to find each totem piece, so add it to the list of things you need to track down. So there you have it, everything I wish I knew sooner about Avowed. As you play the game and discover more tips and tricks, be sure to share them in the comments, and as always, if you appreciate the work that goes into making these videos, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.